Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk today about something that might not always sound exciting, but I promise you it's the secret sauce to every success story you've ever admired. That's right, I stopped talking about discipline. Now I know what you're thinking. Discipline. That sounds like work, Jim. Yes, it is work. But let me tell you, it's the kind of work that changes everything. See, discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's the difference between what you say you want and what you actually get. It steps waking up early when your body says sleep, but your dream says let steps go. It's reading the book when everyone else is watching television. It's making that extra phone call, writing that extra page, lifting that extra rep, even when no one's watching. Let me put it to you like this. Everyone wants success, but not everyone wants the pain of discipline. Let me tell you something I learned early on, and it changed everything for me. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. That's not just a clever phrase. It's a principle that governs every area of life. See, everyone has goals. You talk to folks on the street, ask them what they want, and they'll tell you, I want to be successful, I want to be healthier, I want financial freedom, I want to travel the world. You hear it all the time. The goals sound great, don't they? But here's just the thing, goals are easy. You can set a goal in 5 seconds. Just say it out loud. But accomplishment? That's different. That's where the price is paid. That's where discipline steps in. Discipline is doing what you said you would do, long after the feeling in which you said it has passed. You ever been excited to start something? Maybe it's the 1st of January, new year, new goals, and you're ready to conquer the world. But then February rolls around and suddenly the excitement fades. You don't feel like going to the gym. You don't feel like waking up early. Well, guess what? Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline is not emotional. It's a commitment. It's the muscle that carries your dreams from your mind into the real world. When I was 25, broke and struggling, I had plenty of goals. I had ideas, desires, even some talent, but no discipline. And talent without discipline is like an expensive car with no gas. It looks good, but it's not going anywhere. Then I met a mentor. He said, Jim, you have got great ambition, but you still missing the bridge. If you want to get to the other side, the side where the dreams live, you start going to have to cross the bridge of discipline. He was right. I started small. Just a few simple disciplines. Reading a few pages every day. Waking up a little earlier. Keeping my promises to myself. Not majoring in minor things. And you know what I learned? Success is not one big leap. It's 1,000 small steps. And those steps are made one day at a time through the power of discipline. The world is full of people who start, but don't finish. They had the goal, but they never built the bridge. So the dream stays on one side of the river and they stay on the other, watching, wishing, wondering what could have been. But you can be different. Discipline is the great equalizer. You don't need to be the smartest, the fastest, or the most gifted. You just need to show up daily. Do the work, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. And here's the beautiful part. Discipline compounds. At first it's tough, but then it becomes a rhythm. And before you know it, your results start to grow. People start to ask, how did you do it? And you still say, I built a bridge. So let me encourage you today, don't just dream it. Don't just talk about it. Discipline it. Let your actions speak louder than your intentions. Because that sips the real power of discipline. It turns someday into today. It turns wishes into reality. It turns average people into champions. And my friend, that sips a bridge worth building. Most people underestimate pain. Not just the physical kind, but the emotional and mental pain that accumulates over time. In my years of observing human behavior, both in the consulting room and in life, I've noticed something quite telling. People will go to great lengths to avoid the small discomforts of daily discipline, yet they unknowingly walk straight into the crushing weight of regret. Discipline, when applied consistently, is often mild. In fact, it's remarkably light when compared to its alternative. It's the small ache of getting up an hour earlier than your body wants to. The minor resistance of saying no to a tempting indulgence that doesn't serve your long-term health. The slight sting of opening a book when your brain would rather scroll through distractions. These are moments of resistance, yes, but they're brief. They are controlled. They are purposeful. Now compare that to regret. Regret comes later, but its weight is far heavier. It arrives silently like a shadow and settles in your chest when it's already too late to reverse course. It is not sharp and sudden, like the pain of discipline. It is dull and persistent, and it lingers. It shows up in the what-ifs and the if-onlys. It haunts people in their 40s, 50s, 60s when they look back and realize that what they ignored was not a threat. It was a daily opportunity, knocking gently, and they never answered the door. What's fascinating is that we always choose one. No one escapes. The question is not whether you'll feel discomfort. The question is when and what kind. Either you feel the light burden of discipline today or you bear the heavy burden of regret tomorrow. Let me offer an example I've seen time and again. A patient is advised to adjust their lifestyle. Eat better, move more, manage stress. It sounds simple, and it is, but it requires discipline. A little planning, a few minutes of movement, saying no to certain foods. Most shrug it off. I feel fine, they say, and they do, until they don't. Years later, the price is paid, not in small daily discomforts, but in full. A heart attack, a diagnosis, a medication list, as long as your arm. At that point, they would give anything to go back and carry those light ounces of discipline. It's not just about health. The same applies to finances, relationships, even personal growth. The person who saves a little each week feels the pinch. They sacrifice some comfort today. They skip a purchase, delay gratification. That's discipline. But they retire with freedom, with options, with dignity. The one who avoids that minor discomfort spends freely, enjoys now, and one day wakes up to the crushing realization that time has run out and the choices are gone. Regret is the most dangerous kind of pain because it's not just emotional, it's irreversible. There's no medicine, no operation, no therapy that can restore lost time. We can heal many things in this world, but we cannot go back. And so I say this not as a preacher, but as a practitioner. If you must choose pain, and you must choose the pain that builds, not the one that destroys. Choose the effort that stretches you today rather than the sorrow that collapses you tomorrow. You see, discipline is not punishment. It is a prescription, a daily dose of struggle that strengthens rather than weakens. And just like any good treatment, its effects are not always immediate, but over time, it saves lives. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So carry the ounces now. They're light, they're manageable, and they will spare you the weight you were never meant to carry. One of the most important truths I've learned, both as a medical professional and as a student of human behavior, is that lasting transformation doesn't happen in dramatic events. It unfolds quietly, almost imperceptibly, through the repetition of small, consistent actions over time. In medicine, we see this every day. You don't cure illness overnight. You don't lower blood pressure with one pill, or reverse years of damage with a single healthy meal. But give a patient a small action. Walk for 20 minutes. Take one medication daily. Adjust their diet by just 10%. And repeat that over weeks, months, years, and you start to see miracles. Not because they did something extraordinary once, but because they did something ordinary consistently. It's the same principle in life. The habits that shape a person's body, mind, relationships, and success are almost never impressive on the surface. They're not headline-worthy. They're not glamorous, but they are powerful. Brushing your teeth, doesn't take more than 2 minutes, but if you skip it for a week, you'll feel the difference. A few weeks, you'll see the damage. 6 months, the results are irreversible. That sips the power of small, consistent effort. Now, people often come to me looking for change, not just in their health, but in their lives. They want to turn things around, and they want to do it fast. It's natural. We're conditioned by media and marketing to expect instant results. 30 days to this, 7 days to that. But real growth doesn't respond to deadlines. It responds to discipline. It's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Let's look at the human body. The body doesn't change because of what you do once. It changes because of what you do repeatedly. Lift a weight one time and nothing happens. Lift it every other day for 3 months and everything changes, not just in your muscles, but in your confidence, your energy, your posture, your mindset. And this isn't just physical. It's true in relationships. You don't build trust with a grand gesture. You build it with steady presence. Small acts of kindness, attention, and honesty repeated over time. And in finances, it's not one smart investment that creates wealth. It's the habit of saving, the discipline of budgeting, the repeated decision to delay gratification. The truth is, almost anything you want in life is the result of a compound effect. Small steps done daily. That's how meaningful change is built. The danger is that because these steps seem so small, many people don't take them seriously. They dismiss them, skip them, postpone them, and nothing seems to change. Until one day they look around and realize they're far behind where they hoped to be. But the reverse is also true. Start small, stick with it. And even if you don't see dramatic results right away, you're building something quietly, steadily. Like water dripping on stone, shaping it one drop at a time. You don't need to do everything today. You just need to do something small, something simple. And do it again tomorrow. The real breakthrough happens not when you do more, but when you don't quit. So whether it's walking for your health, reading for your growth, saving for your future, or showing up for someone you love, don't underestimate the power of a small, consistent act, because over time those small acts become your identity, and eventually they become your legacy. In both medicine and life, one of the most consistent observations I've made is this: most people know what they should do. The gap isn't knowledge, it's action, and more specifically, it's the willingness to do what most others simply won't, not once, not twice, but over and over again. In health, I've seen it countless times. A patient comes in newly diagnosed with a condition that requires lifestyle changes, better nutrition, daily movement, stress management. The science is clear, the path forward is outlined, and yet only a small percentage truly follow through. Not because it's impossible, not because it's unclear, but because it's uncomfortable. It requires showing up even when it's inconvenient. It demands effort in the absence of praise. And that's where many turn away. It's human nature to seek comfort, efficiency, and ease. But lasting success in health, relationships, careers, or personal growth almost always lies on the other side of discomfort. It lies in the behaviors that feel too slow, too repetitive, too ordinary to be worth it. Yet these are the very things that build resilience, strength, and results. Here's something I tell many of my patients. If you want to experience uncommon outcomes, you must be willing to engage in uncommon behavior. That doesn't mean radical or extreme. It simply means different from what the average person is doing. Most people don't wake up early to stretch, prepare a balanced meal, or take 20 minutes to reflect. Most people don't turn off their devices to focus deeply. Most people don't plan their day with intention or take control of their habits. And because of that, most people live lives of quiet frustration, wondering why nothing changes. The truth is, it's not that the successful are somehow more gifted or more fortunate. More often, they're just more consistent. They've trained themselves to do what's necessary even when they don't feel like it. They've developed the ability to stay with a routine long enough to see results. That kind of discipline isn't glamorous, but it's deeply powerful. Take medication adherence, for example. You'd be surprised how many people fail to take something as simple as a daily pill. Not because they forget, but because they become complacent. They don't feel the consequences right away, so they stop. But health doesn't deteriorate in one day. It slips quietly unnoticed until the cost becomes visible. The same applies to every part of life. Progress is subtle, and so is decline. Doing what most won't also means accepting boredom. Yes, boredom. Because real growth is often not exciting. It's repetitive. It's structured. It asks you to stay the course when distractions offer something easier or more stimulating. But those who succeed in health, business, or character understand that mastery lies in repetition. Consistency is the true separator. It's not about intensity for a short period. It's about quiet persistence over time. The kind of behavior that rarely gets applause but always gets results. So if you find yourself frustrated, waiting for a breakthrough, wondering why things aren't changing, ask yourself this: am I really doing what most won't? Am I choosing the slightly harder path, the less popular habit, the small sacrifice today for the bigger reward tomorrow? If not, you still can. The opportunity is always available. Every day gives you a new chance to show up in ways that most people won't. And the beauty of this principle is that the moment you start doing that, you begin separating yourself, not through ego, but through effort. And eventually, the results will show, not suddenly, but unmistakably, quietly. You become the outlier. Not because you're lucky, but because you were willing. There's something I often share with patients when we talk about change. Discipline isn't just about self-control or restriction. It's a form of care, not for the person you are today, but for the person you're becoming. In a very real way, discipline is a gift you give to your future self. Think of it the same way we think of preventive medicine. We don't ask people to walk daily or eat healthier because they're in crisis right now. We do it to protect them from the crisis that's coming, often years down the line. It's the act of choosing a little discomfort today so you can avoid a great deal of suffering later. The challenge is we live in a world built around immediacy. Everything is designed to meet your needs now. Fast food, instant results, same-day delivery. But health, purpose, meaning, these are not found in the quick win. They're earned through patient, repeated effort. And that effort is called discipline. Now, I understand that discipline can feel like denial, saying no to something that feels good in the moment. Whether that's junk food, skipping exercise, or putting off a task can feel like a loss. But if we shift perspective, we start to see the truth. You're not depriving yourself. You're investing in yourself. You're putting something into motion that will benefit you far more than you can see today. In the same way, a patient takes a daily medication, not because they feel immediate relief, but because it builds protection over time. Your small acts of discipline do the same. They accumulate quietly, slowly, but powerfully. Think of your future self as someone you deeply care about, a patient under your care, so to speak. What would you prescribe to that person? Would you set them up with chronic stress, financial instability, and poor health? Or would you want them to wake up each day with energy, clarity, strength, and peace of mind? Every choice you make today becomes part of the life that person will live. And the more you show up for yourself now with discipline and consistency, the more you spare your future self from having to deal with preventable problems. I've seen this play out many times. A patient in their 30s chooses to live with discipline. Regular movement, mindful eating, managing their emotions and finances. They don't look all that different at first. But fast forward 10 or 15 years, and they're full of energy, flexibility, independence, and confidence. Meanwhile, another patient who avoided those small efforts faces a completely different set of outcomes: medications, joint pain, anxiety, and regret. And regret, as I've said before, is a painful diagnosis, because there's no prescription that can undo time. So rather than seeing discipline as something you have to suffer through, begin to see it as an act of self-respect. a forward-looking kindness. You're protecting someone you haven't met yet, the version of you that will one day be grateful for every good choice you made when it was hard. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start with one daily action, one decision that says, I care about the life I'm building, whether that's reading instead of scrolling, cooking instead of ordering, saving instead of spending, moving instead of sitting. It all adds up. You may not notice the change right away. That's okay. Medicine doesn't always offer instant relief either, but given time and consistency, the result is profound. Discipline is not about punishment. It's not about perfection. It's simply about choosing what's best before it becomes what's necessary. And one day your future self will look back with deep gratitude and perhaps even relief for the decisions you made today. One of the most common challenges I see in both clinical practice and daily life is the overwhelming desire to fix everything at once. A person realizes their health is declining or their life feels out of control, and they suddenly want to change everything overnight. Their diet, their sleep, their habits, their stress levels. It's an understandable instinct, but it's also one of the quickest ways to burn out or give up. What I tell patients is this: you don't need to change your whole life in a week. You just need to start healing, progress, transformation. None of it happens through sudden leaps. It happens through sustained, intentional steps. The most effective treatment plan is not the most aggressive one, but the one a patient can stick to. It's the same with life. Change that lasts is built gradually, and the most important part of that process is beginning. You don't need to have the perfect plan. You don't need to feel ready. You simply need to take one action that moves you in the right direction, no matter how small it seems. In fact, starting small is often the wisest choice. It gives your mind and body time to adjust. It reduces resistance. It builds momentum. When someone comes to me wanting to improve their health, I don't ask them to start running 5 miles a day. I might start with 5 minutes of walking, or adding 1 glass of water, or replacing 1 processed meal. These changes may seem insignificant, but they're not. They signal a shift, a commitment to better care, a vote for the future. More importantly, starting small helps overcome one of the biggest barriers to progress: perfectionism. Many people never begin because they're waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, or a burst of motivation, but that day rarely comes. In reality, waiting for perfect conditions is often a form of avoidance, a quiet way of saying I'm afraid to begin. But what I've seen again and again is that action creates clarity. You don't need motivation to start. You often find motivation after you start. A single positive action, even a modest one, begins to reshape how you see yourself. You go from someone who wants to change to someone who is changing. And here's the reassuring part: your small step doesn't have to be visible to others to be valuable. In medicine, many of the most powerful changes happen internally before they show externally. It's the same with personal growth. The first sign of improvement is often felt before it's seen, in the form of confidence, hope, or a slight but important shift in energy. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if the mountain ahead looks too tall to climb, stop looking at the summit. Just look at the next step in front of you. Choose one behavior, one habit, one decision that moves you in a healthier, more stable, more meaningful direction. And give it time. There's no need to rush transformation. We don't judge the effectiveness of medicine by how fast it works, but by how well it works over time. The same principle applies to discipline and change. The results may not come tomorrow or next week, but if you stay with it, they come. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to feel completely ready. You simply need to begin. The smallest effort today is infinitely more powerful than the perfect plan delayed until tomorrow. Because the truth is, real change begins not with a massive overhaul, but with a quiet decision. I'm going to take better care of myself. Starting now.